Hi, and welcome to EdVantage. My name is Marie Hensinger, and today we're going to talk about income inequality, poverty, and homelessness. Income inequality, we usually talk about economic inequality as the difference between the earnings of those in the top tier of society, or the top 20%, versus those in the bottom tier of society. So as far as recent trends go, income inequality has risen quite a lot since the 1970s. So we can tell by this graph here that nationally, income for top earners has risen at twice the rate compared to incomes of the bottom earners. And there's a couple of reasons for that. It's a very complex issue, but we can trace it back to phenomena like the changing nature of jobs and the decreased power of labor unions and organizing, just some of the reasons. Wealth inequality, however, is even more striking as the gaps between those who have the most wealth and those who have the zero or even negative wealth. So according to this graph in 2013, the richest 20% of families own almost 90% of all the wealth in the United States. So that is quite a staggering number. Remember, wealth is your assets, your savings, your investments, your retirement accounts. So there's quite a few people in the United States that have zero wealth. So they may have a high income, but when you take into account all of their consumer debt, student loan debt, mortgages that they owe, they actually have negative wealth or net worth. And again, this often reproduces itself because wealth can be inherited from parents or family members. As far as inequality goes, the United States has the highest amount of inequalities out of all of the G7 countries. The Gini coefficient is a coefficient that statistically measures inequality in countries. The United States Gini coefficient is at a 0.435. So poverty, the definition is the state of lacking the material and social resources an individual requires to live a healthy life. In the United States, we measure poverty using what we call the poverty line. And the poverty line, how we calculate it, has remained unchanged in quite some time, in some decades. And how we calculate the poverty line is we take the average food budget for a person or a family and we multiply it by 3. And that's how we get the number. So for the United States, the federal poverty line for a family of 4 is $25,750 in the year 2019. Now, the official poverty rate has been decreasing in the last couple of years. So it's actually down 0.5% compared to 2018, which is definitely a good thing. But it's important to note that we use the poverty line often to administer government assistance or different government programs to help the needy. As far as homelessness goes, this is often correlated with poverty. So homelessness, the definition, is individuals who lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. And so this can mean a variety of different situations. It could be people who are sleeping in their car, it could mean people who are sleeping outside, it could mean people who are sleeping in homeless shelters, or people who are couch surfing. And because all of these varieties of situations, it can be extremely difficult to count the homeless, but we do our best. Homelessness spiked during the Great Recession and has been slowly declining ever since then, and it has remained stable over the last couple of years. Anyone can be homeless as far as demographics go, any age, race, gender. However, there are certain risk factors, for example, having mental illness or addiction issues, being chronically poor, having a lack of a social support network, and also race is correlated with homelessness, with African Americans being overrepresented in the homeless population. Also, a trend that sociologists are interested in is called the feminization of poverty, and this is the trend that women are overrepresented in the poor category, or those who are likely to suffer from poverty compared to men. In 2012, 16 million American children were also living in poverty as well. So usually when people think about the face of homelessness or the face of poverty, they might think of a single male, but actually women and children are a large portion of this population. And there's a variety of reasons for this that we'll talk about in the gender chapter, but typically single parents tend to be women and tend to have financial responsibility for their children. And since women tend to make less money compared to men, they're more likely to suffer from poverty. There are a variety of government programs to help needy people. The first one I'll talk about is called SNAP, or the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, formerly known as food stamps. Now, SNAP gives needy families or individuals a certain amount of money in order to buy nutritious foods to supplement their income. The average SNAP recipient received about $127 a month, which calculates to about $4 a day in the fiscal year 2018. And it's important to note that there are certain items that you cannot purchase with SNAP. For example, you cannot purchase alcohol, you cannot purchase pre-prepared foods, and you cannot purchase household items like toilet paper and paper towels. A second program that's controversial that you're probably familiar with is called TANF, which stands for the Temporary Assistance to Needy Families Program. And this was initiated in 1996 as part of a welfare reform program. And what it is a federal block grant given to states to distribute to needy individuals and needy families, and the states can kind of determine how they want to use that money. A lot of times it's for childcare, for basic living expenses, or even a housing credit. As far as people who have taken advantage of the TANF program, it has the numbers have dwindled quite a bit since 1996. So in 1996, 68 families for every 100 in poverty had TANF benefits. And if you compare that to 2016, only 23, so less than a quarter of families in poverty are using TANF. It's also important to note that this is temporary, meaning that there's a 60-month time limit, lifetime time limit. Also, most legal immigrants are ineligible for TANF until they've been living in the United States for at least 5 years, and undocumented immigrants are also not eligible for TANF. There are many other government assistance programs, but those are just a couple that I have talked to you about today. And I want to thank you for watching, and please tune in next time. Thanks.